Welcome to Weeks Marine, a multifaceted construction company built on a century of maritime tradition. Through years in the industry, Weeks has become a contractor of choice for public and private entities alike, helping build and maintain critical marine infrastructure vital to our economy and coastal communities. The Weeks Dredging Division deepens and clears shipping lanes, anchorages, and berthing areas crucial to maritime trade. Our beach nourishment projects rebuild and replenish storm-swept barrier islands and shores. To safely produce our projects requires an extensive fleet of specialized ships, equipment, and expertise. The very nature of the work puts us in close proximity with a variety of elevated or buried energy utilities.
One of the obstacles to dredging here in the southern United States is dealing with the oil and gas infrastructure that is laid on the sea bottom or the river bottom.
From pipelines carrying gasoline, oil, or propane and other gases to transmission lines for fiber, electric, and wind power, the U.S. Energy and Utility Transportation Network runs in the millions of miles. It's a dense web of infrastructure operated by more than 3,000 different companies and growing each year.
Once we jump the pipeline with the dredge and we spud down 100 feet from the pipeline, then the representative can depart the dredge.
Through diligent communication, caution, and vigilance, Weeks can and does work safely in this vast industrial network. Please pay attention as we cover our pipeline safety processes in this video. It's up to each one of us, every day, to do our part and work safe. Welcome to Weeks Marine and Pipeline Safety. Planning work around pipelines.
The most serious risks to human life and environment posed by marine pipelines are due to anchors, spud barges, and collisions of vessels. On this project right here, we're going to deal with all of those things.
Proper planning for work around pipelines requires thorough communication and accurate information.
We've got the two marsh creation areas here, and there's a verified live pipeline that runs in between the two. I know we've completed one calls for all of this. Have we reached out and got a point of contact with the representative for this company?
Critical data regarding a pipeline's location, size, pressurization, and content carried must be obtained directly from the owners through 811, the National Call Before You Dig hotline.
Hi, this is Rachel with Weeks Marine calling about some information on as-built.
We ensure we work from the latest data by having pipeline representatives on site to mark a utility's course. Then we re-verify in all areas of operational impact.
That's our third-party survey out there, probing and trying to find depth of cover and understand where each of these pipelines is coming from.
From borrow, mooring, and staging areas to fill sites, access zones, and transit paths, we leave nothing to chance.
This is going to be our safe harbor. So just to make sure, we went ahead and mag and probed every inch of this to make sure that there's nothing missing from the one calls or from the information from the pipeline company.
Yeah, it's that pipeline. There's actually 3 pipelines in this area, and some of them are not buried so deep with material, so we got to flag these off with cane poles and keep our operators off of them.
With pipeline and utility proximity common on our jobs, emergency plans must be well thought out, discussed often, and fresh in mind.
At the end of the day, it's about securing safety for our people and making sure that we keep the underwater infrastructure and above utilities safe. This utility here, it wasn't on the plans and specifications. We're going to halt all operations in this area until we can get this identified. We also need to let the owner of the contract know that this utility wasn't on their plans and specs.
Communication from the field to our operators, vessel crews, project management, and pipeline owners must remain constant. With safe operating parameters defined, we execute our plan. Dredging near pipelines and emergency preparedness.
All right, so we're about 24 hours away from getting to the actual location of where the pipeline corridor is.
Once we dig up to the corridor, we're going to pick the cutter up, tie it off. We're going to do a calibration on the ladder. We always have the representative with us. He actually witnesses the calibration of the ladder.
We're going to talk about muster stations and everybody's assignments and be in good coordination with the Coast Guard and all of the authorities within the river. make sure that we have a good plan of action should anything occur.
Prior to dredging over active pipelines, we review plans and make preparations. It starts with our own emergency response drills.
This is our station bill. I go over this with the crew weekly, tells exactly what they need to be doing at any emergency. Fire drill, man overboard, abandoned ship drill.
Before digging within 1,000 feet of a pipeline, we place Coast Guard approved buoys outside tolerance or buffer zones.
This orange hatching's 100 feet on either side. Whenever you reach that, that's where you will not spud down at all. Beyond that is the red, that's where the cutter will be tied off at. So 100 feet up to it and then 50 feet up to it.
We've also checked the tide on the dredge. Everything has been verified. The draft gauge and sensor has been checked and verified.
Cutter calibration occurs in 10-foot increments using a cabled buoy attached to the cutter head.
Crew's about to enter the ladder.
We're going to clip into the top of the ring, which is our most accessible point. So everything has been measured for the offset from the top of the cutter to the bottom of the cutter. Let's exit the ladder and we'll radio up and tell them to proceed with the calibration to 30 feet.
Okay, we're coming down to 30 feet. 30 feet elevation on the ladder. Whenever we're digging over a pipeline, we know exactly where the cutter head is, what elevation is at all times, and it is correct.
Dialed in, the dredge crew can make its move, maneuvering the cutter head and spuds beyond the buffer zone.
This right here is going to end up right here. You'll see it on this screen here. When you see the yellow line, there it is. That's the pipeline. Get ready to drop the spud when I tell you to. Go ahead, drop it. David, let's go ahead and hook the pipeline up.
Emergency response.
The most important thing if there is a pipeline strike is to get our people to safe harbor and also all operations cease.
Even with every caution and due diligence taken, unknown or unmarked pipelines exist, creating risk.
Charles, looks like we hit something. Hit the all stop button. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is the Dredge JS traffic.
Spotting the signs of a leak and taking proper action can make life and death differences or avoid environmental catastrophe. Signs of a leak could be continuous bubbling, blowing, or hissing sounds, a rainbow sheen or colored oily residue on the water, or a gaseous smell around an area. An active gas detector on site should be used to detect odorless natural gas. Emergency response and pipeline precautions must be well rehearsed and deployed immediately if a leak is suspected. That includes cutting any potential ignition source.
We all have cell phones. That's the number one thing you do not want to use. Make sure your cell phone is in your pocket. Do not utilize it. Motors.
In the event of a strike, try to drift away from a leak and evacuate the dredge if necessary.
All right, come on, let's go. Grab the EPIRB and let's get off here.
Contact the proper emergency authorities and make a note of details like exact time, wind direction, and current. Secure the area if possible. And remember, we take every precaution to prevent a pipeline strike, but must act instantly if one occurs.
We have a third-party survey company working actively in this area to identify each one of these anomalies.
Through thorough planning, communication, and corroboration, we work safely around pipelines.
Everything's been verified. We know exactly what the depth of cover is and exactly the locations.
We check and confirm every detail, identify all concerns, and mitigate risk.
We'll all be watching every move everyone makes. Put all our heads together and we get it done safely and efficiently.
All to safely execute our work with accountability and transparency between vessel and shore, project and pipeline ownership, and local authorities within the U.S. Energy Utility Transportation Network.
We've reached out to Vessel Traffic Service, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the River Pilots Association. We're giving them daily updates.
And as the challenge grows with each mile of new pipe installed, Weeks stands ready for the opportunity, confident in our people, our process, and our dedication to safe work. Thank you for your attention and welcome to Weeks Marine.